The Battle of Los Angeles was an event in the early hours of February 25, 1942, during World War II, when U.S. anti-aircraft guns fired over 1,400 shells at perceived enemy aircraft over Los Angeles. Reports described a large, glowing, slow-moving object that seemed unaffected by heavy anti-aircraft fire. Reports varied, however, from single planes to large formations, sometimes described as red flares. The object were said to move at varying speeds, changing directions suddenly, being able to hover, and withstand direct artillery hits, which seemed impossible for conventional aircraft. Though the military officially attributed it to war nerves and a weather balloon, these claims have been doubted and challenged for decades. The barrage caused blackouts, property damage, civilian panic, and supposedly a few deaths from accidents and heart attacks, becoming a symbol of wartime hysteria and mystery.
There have been reports of strange creatures in the area.
Witnesses say they couldn't believe what they were seeing.
Welcome, beloved fofers, doubters, naysayers, non-believers, and skeptics. Welcome to Paranormal Fable or Fact. I am Victor Trevino, joined by my co-host and beautiful wife, Tammy.
We are your humble guides to tales of alleged hoaxes, unbelievable stories, and the overall strange.
If you want your story to be on the show, send us an email at pfableorfact@proton.me, and the rules for debunkers are in the show notes. Give us a good review, hit the notification bell, and subscribe. It's the easiest way to support us other than buying us a beer. As always, our appreciation goes out to our veterans, our troops, and our first responders. God be with you and yours. Season 3, baby.
This is Season 3?
Actually, the last episode was Season 3 and I missed it.
Really? Oh. Happy Season 3.
Yeah. It's a little celebration.
Cool. Yeah, a little celebration.
Starting the 3rd year.
And we got 80,000 views on our channel, so that's a celebration too. It's the little celebrations that we appreciate, and we appreciate that because of you guys.
Well, probably more than 80,000 now, but yeah, it was 80,000 yesterday. Yesterday or whatever. Let's get to the gist. This show is called The Battle of LA, short for the Battle of Los Angeles. On February 23, 1942, a Japanese submarine, an I-17, shelled an oil facility near Santa Barbara with its 14-centimeter deck gun, causing minimal damage. 2 days later, around 0225 hours, something, possibly a weather balloon, was spotted in the sky, triggering air raid sirens and a citywide blackout. Searchlights converged on the sky, and at 0316 hours, anti-aircraft batteries unleashed a massive barrage of shells for nearly an hour. Sporadic fire continued for several hours. Despite the intense firing, no enemy planes were found, and no bombs were dropped. The event resulted in deaths from traffic accidents and stress-induced heart attacks. In its official explanation, the U.S. Army concluded that it was, quote-unquote, war nerves, a false alarm fueled by the recent Pearl Harbor attack, and highlighted the intense fear and hysteria gripping the U.S. coastal areas.
Okay, I have a question already.
Go ahead, baby.
Are shells and bombs the same thing?
No, not really.
Okay, I'm just double checking. Sorry for all my military people.
Well, the anti-aircraft batteries would have been flak. Basically what it is, it's an artillery shell that they used to fire. I don't think we use them anymore because now it's jets and jets are too fast. But what flak used to do is they used to fire these barrages of these exploding shells up in the air. They weren't trying to hit the aircraft. What they were doing is they were creating like these nets of large shrapnel And the planes going 400 or 500 miles an hour through those fields of shrapnel would shred the plane.
Okay.
So they didn't even need to hit the plane. They were just trying to get as many pieces of shrapnel up in the air as they could to create this minefield for the poor aircraft.
And that's the shells.
And that's what they were firing up in the air. And that's why they say that it caused all this damage, because you had all that pieces of metal raining down on Los Angeles, basically.
That makes sense for the civilian self of myself.
Yeah. Civilian self of yourself. They fired 1,400 of those shells.
Wow.
Up in the air, yeah. Over 1,400.
Wait a minute, and they said that was war nerves?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, they just panicked. So we're going to the red flags / findings / sightings. While doing our regular cursory research, we noticed there seemed to be difficulties, perhaps intentionally, in separating what was reported by the troops that night and what was reported by the civilians. The troops had binoculars, radars, spotlights, radios, and vantage points that the civilians did not. Mixing all the reports together seemed to muddy the waters on what was actually seen, and like I said, I think that's intentional.
Yes.
Because I want to know what the troops saw. Instead, you get this whole mishmash of, there was red lights, there was a whole fleet of aircraft in the air, there was a glowing bubble, some people saw weather balloons, some people saw tracers, all kinds of crazy stuff. And it was Navy, U.S. Navy, and U.S. Army troops.
Involved in this.
Yeah, involved.
Okay.
And it muddied the water on what was actually seen.
Gotcha. At 02:15 hours, radar detected an object 120 miles or 193 kilometers west of Los Angeles.
At 0225 hours, the air sirens were employed. This is when they just turned on those sirens. They turned all the lights out in the city because they're blacking out because they think they're under attack. Happy hour occurred back in the 40s just like it occurs now at 0200 hours. So the bars had just closed and some people would have been heading home right after last call. We'll talk about that more in Inarguable Truth number 4.
At 03:16 hours is when the anti-air batteries opened up and continued the main intense barrage until 04:14 hours. The all clear was sounded at 07:21 hours.
But during that time between 0400 hours and 0700 hours, there was still sporadic shots being fired. It didn't just cease and then they called the all clear. There was still firing going on. So the next red flag, the records of the incident are difficult to research, not only because it was so long ago, but also because of varying degrees of secrecy. This was during wartime. So a lot of the records were sealed, top secret, classified, what have you.
Correct.
Moving on.
This incident occurred just 3.5 years after the Orson Welles War of the Worlds panic in October 30th, 1938. Regardless of how we feel about the Battle of Los Angeles, we cannot discount nearly identical reports of panic, which were later disproved.
We cannot discount the fact that nearly identical reports of a panic happened just 3.5 years prior to this.
Right.
During the War of the Worlds incidents.
Right.
Which we did do a show on, by the way.
Yes, we did.
What was it called? Like the Alien Panic or something?
Yeah. And we also have to remember during this time, the whole media, all media was radio. That's the biggest thing. People were listening to the radios to get news, to get information that was going on.
We just have to keep that in mind, that this occurred right around the same time that panic was falsified, or we found that the panic was falsified against Orson Welles and his War of the Worlds radio program. Very, very important to remember. Let's move on. Also, false reporting of the War of the Worlds panic was most of the state of New Jersey and parts of New York City. The panic in Los Angeles was just one city. How much easier could it be for the media to exaggerate reports on such a smaller scale?
Right.
Reports that people panicked are not hard to believe. Even during War of the Worlds, some people did indeed panic, but it was totally sensationalized to make it seem much more broad and more serious than it actually was. That's all I'm putting out there. Could this have happened during the Battle of Los Angeles as well? Just asking, and it's just something to think about. Moving on.
When documenting the incident in 1949, which was 7 years after, the United States Coast Artillery Association identified a weather balloon sent aloft at 0100 hours as having started all the shooting, and concluded that once the firing started, imagination created all kinds of targets in the sky and everyone joined in.
Moving on. The Los Angeles Times came under very heavy criticism because they heavily retouched the famous photo from the Battle of Los Angeles on February 26, 1942. Before publication, artists altered the image by brightening the search beams and enhancing the contrast to make the anti-aircraft shell bursts appear as a solid object in the sky. The modifications were only made to improve the contrast for poor quality newsprint, which was a standard practice in the 1940s by newspaper photo departments, according to a Los Angeles Times article, which was a true statement. They did it all the time because they didn't have the high-def cameras that we have today.
Correct.
Back in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. So back then, when they took their mediocre photos, and I mean, they did have some decent photography back then, but not like what we have now.
Right.
And when you're taking action photos, news photos, like the one of the Battle of Los Angeles, or the photos being sent into the newspapers by amateur photographers that just happened to be there, sometimes they had to alter them so that you could see what was going on, because sometimes it was too dark. When they printed it in a newspaper, it just looked like a big shadow.
Yeah.
So they would have to alter the contrast and sometimes touch it up so that you could see what you were looking at.
Right.
This was a standard practice, and this is what the Los Angeles Times article defended itself. They said, no, we didn't try to make it look like there was something in the sky. All we did was make it to where you could see what was going on.
Yeah.
So basically this is the original photo right here. This is what it looked like. You can see the spotlights shining, the explode. You can see the flak explosions around there, and you can kind of see a solid image in the middle, right?
Yeah.
This is the untouched photo that I found online. That's the original negative, viewed as a positive. Not much difference,
No.
in my opinion. And this is the Los Angeles Times negative. This was apparently viewed by like photo experts and stuff, and they could find nothing wrong with it. They're like, yeah, that looks like a negative. But they were saying they noticed that this notch pattern was not typical of LA Times negatives. You can see there, that was the only question they had about it. But apparently, this is the best negative that they could find. Now, this is the same photograph, untouched by the New York Times, in negative. And as you can see, there's something solid there.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, regardless of whether, the Los Angeles Times touched up the photo or not, they must have been firing at something, but I don't know. Right now we're just trying to keep as neutral as possible. I'm just showing you the evidence.
Okay.
So let's move on.
During World War II, over 19,000 general court-martials were filed against military personnel during the European theater of operations. Stricter prosecutions were enforced for charges like manslaughter, rape, murder, and theft.
So now we're to our favorite part, the Inarguable Truths. Number 1. Not even the military could agree on what was or wasn't in the skies that night.
Number 2. The claims of paranoia due to the attack on Pearl Harbor were exaggerated.
Number 3. The all-purpose, almighty weather balloon explanation strikes again.
Number 4. Evidence that 5 people died as a direct result of the battle is weak.
Number 5. At the time, the term UFO was not well known, and neither were sightings.
Number 6. Other theories on what may have happened do not include war nerves.
Number 7. False alarms generally do not count as military collateral damage. So let's go back up to Inarguable Truth number 1. Not even the military could agree on what was or wasn't in the skies that night. Right after the incident, Frank Knox, the then Secretary of the Navy, said that the air defense was shooting at nothing and that the troops were suffering from jittery nerves. But then Henry Stimson, the Secretary of War at the time, during a press conference said that there were 15 planes present and that they were not U.S. aircraft. There were also other unauthenticated documents from General George Marshall, the Chief of Staff at the time, to President Franklin D. Roosevelt, were uncovered that showed that 2 downed unknown aircraft that were recovered. One was off the coast between Catalina Island and Los Angeles, and the other was recovered in the San Bernardino Mountains.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So let's move on to Inarguable Truth number 2. The claims of paranoia due to the attack on Pearl Harbor were exaggerated. We're not saying that people possibly didn't panic. That's not what we're saying. But there were instances and evidence that was offered by the skeptics that claimed to show just how people were on edge back then. People were on the verge of just having panic attacks. Their first piece of evidence is the blackout in Seattle. According to them, they were practicing blackout drills, they were practicing duck and cover, they were doing all this stuff, and people were so running around with their heads cut off, and they did it for absolutely no reason other than just to panic the people in Seattle. Because why would they do that in Seattle, Washington? The reason they were doing that in Seattle, Washington was because Boeing had major production plants there. There was a famous plant, plant number 2, which in 1941 was producing a key aircraft, something called the B-17 Flying Fortress, which practically won us the war. So that's why they were doing that.
That would make sense. It's like training for emergency situation.
It's a strategic target for our enemies.
Just like practicing fire drills in schools and fire drills in a business.
Right.
You practice that in case.
But the point is, they weren't doing it for nothing because they were panicked or because they were on edge. They were doing it because there was a strategical target there in Seattle.
Makes sense to me.
In fact, there was a famous construction of a fake neighborhood that they put on the roof of plant number 2 for camouflage. The next one was blackouts in Juneau, Alaska. Same thing here. This is total evidence that the mayor in Juneau was just on edge and he was panicked and everybody's running around with their heads cut off. No, it's because the Japanese invaded the Aleutian Islands, making the territory a critical strategic defense point for the United States, which led to a massive air base being constructed, the building of the Alaskan Highway for supply, and intense fighting to reclaim those occupied islands, making Juneau a key logistical hub for supporting these vast operations. In other words, there was no panic. It was, again, a strategic target.
Preparation.
It was preparation. That's all it was. It wasn't people running around, oh my goodness, we're going to be killed at any moment. No, they were doing it for a reason.
That's why I think it's funny, the jittery. Come on, stop.
Exactly. After the attack on Pearl Harbor, the military did vow not to get caught off guard again. It's why there was anti-aircraft weapons placed in points around Los Angeles, bunkers were built, and air raid protocols, blackout drills, were practiced by civilians. Even the radio stations in LA were silent. So it was a strict protocol, but again, they had reason to do it. They didn't want to be caught off guard. So again, is it really people just panicking or what?
No, it's preparation.
At 0215 hours, radar did detect an object 120 miles west of Los Angeles. We can argue blue in the face back and forth about how reliable eyewitness reports are. Radar does not lie. So let's move on.
Going into number 3,
yes. The all-purpose, almighty weather balloon explanation strikes again. They love to use the weather balloon, boy. There's so many weather balloons up in the sky. I'm surprised people aren't just constantly calling in. Because apparently we love to check the weather with weather balloons.
Yeah.
Now, I looked up how weather balloons operate because I got tired of listening to it. Because we remember how many times the military uses them, explaining things away like dozens of cases during Project Blue Book and in Roswell, for example. The huge question is, why did it take the United States Coast Artillery Association 7 years to remember that they had launched that weather balloon?
Right.
At approximately the exact time at 0100 hours.
Yeah.
Top secret weather reports? Is that what we're talking about?
And why were they shooting at it for an hour?
And couldn't hit a weather balloon.
Yeah, a weather balloon.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
The major part of their acceleration is from going from ground to high altitude. They just shoot up because they're trying to gain as much altitude as possible quickly because that's when they start getting their readings once they're atmospheric.
Oh, okay.
So, $1 million question. If the balloon was spotted on radar 120 miles off the coast at 0215 hours, west of Los Angeles, how did it travel over 100 miles in an hour? In order for a weather balloon to travel that fast, it would have to have hit a jet stream, which jet streams are usually right around between 6 and 9 miles, 10 or 15 kilometers high in the sky. The object that they were firing at is estimated to be between 9,000 and 12,000 feet, which is only 1.5 miles to 2 miles in the sky.
Oh, wow.
So it was much lower.
Yeah.
It could not have hit a jet stream if it's a weather balloon. That's it. There you go.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Could not have been one. And here's another question I have for you. If it was a weather balloon, wouldn't that Coast Artillery Association be on live radio?
Yeah, I would think so.
Because they're launching a balloon? Wouldn't they have heard, the calls over the radio?
Sorry guys, it's just our balloon.
Yeah,
sorry.
don't shoot.
Yeah.
It's just a balloon.
Yeah, we're just trying to get weather up here.
Just asking.
Yeah.
So moving on to Inarguable Truth number 4, evidence that 5 people died as a direct result of the battle is weak. This was a Google search in the AI overview. While historical accounts confirm that 2 people died of heart attacks brought on by stress and anxiety on February 25th, 1942, during the Battle of Los Angeles incident, the specific names of these individuals are not generally highlighted in major records or newspaper archives from that time. I found that very curious. Supposedly, this event caused 5 deaths in total, 3 in automobile accidents due to the incident, and 2 from heart attacks, which were largely blamed on the panic and high tension of the incident, or, again, war nerves. Even modern documentaries on the Battle of LA only repeated the info. 5 people were killed. 5 people were killed. Oh, 5 people were killed during the incident. There's no records on who died. No names offered, only that 3 were from traffic accidents and 2 from stress-induced heart attacks. Do we have proof the car accidents were caused directly from the battle? Car accidents happen all the time, especially around or after last call, which was right around the time this occurred.
Right.
If somebody's driving around at 3 o'clock in the morning and they get in an accident, is it really because of the gunfire, or is it because they just got in a traffic accident?
Yeah, and it's not like LA was not small. LA was still a city
huge metropolis.
In 1941.
I'm not saying that it's not possible.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's questionable because when you look back at all the newspapers, I couldn't find anything saying 5 people dead, because of the artillery. None of that.
Yeah.
Nothing about anybody dying. Nothing about any property damage. None of that. I find that very curious.
Yeah, I do too.
We had similar reports from the Orson Welles War of the Worlds panic in 1938, just 3.5 years earlier. Traffic jams on the streets, remember?
Yeah.
People rushing to get out of the city. People were flooding the police lines with phone calls so much that one of the phone stations lit on fire. Remember that?
Yeah.
People running around screaming. Streets were on fire. People were breaking windows and looting. People were, thought the end of the world was coming.
Yeah.
And then we find out later nothing happened.
Right.
I think this is similar to that. People die all the time. Mm-hmm. Car accidents occur all the time. The idea that they can be directly linked to this battle is weak.
Yeah.
Period.
But if anyone does have clippings from the 1942 incident reporting the casualties from that night, send them to us. Email it to us to pfableorfact@proton.me.
Yeah. Oh, because I would love to see it. I couldn't find any. Because I wanted to know who died.
Yeah.
Inarguable Truth number 5. At the time, the term UFO was not well known, and neither were the sightings. And this is just... It's not really anything for or against what was being seen. It was just something that I found interesting. So, the term UFO, or unidentified flying object, wasn't coined by the United States Air Force until at least 10 years after this, in 1952 or 1953.
Interesting.
Towards the end of World War II, Allied pilots, and not just Allied pilots, it was other pilots from other air forces that were engaged in World War II, reported seeing what were called the famous Foo Fighters. And the Foo Fighters were supposedly these glowing orbs that they saw that doing these crazy maneuvers in the sky and stuff that our pilots reported seeing. Of course, we didn't find out about it until years later because, classified and all that, because, most of our pilots were doing bombing raids and stuff like this,
Right.
or, scouting or what have you.
Yeah.
So we didn't hear about it until years later, but they were seeing things in the sky, glowing objects in the sky, which is exactly what was one of the things that was reported during the Battle of Los Angeles.
Right.
which I think is very significant. During that night, troops and civilians reported seeing various unidentified objects, including massive glowing, slow-moving aerial craft, swarms of planes, and a single aircraft appearing to dive or fly erratically, leading to widespread anti-aircraft fire, though no enemy planes were confirmed. Reports were inconsistent, with some describing large, silent, resilient objects slowly moving through the sky, while the confusion of searchlights and exploding shells often created illusions of aircraft, causing panic and mistaken sightings. This is their explanation. And it's always been a weak point to me, this idea that they were shooting at their own lights. It's like the chicken before the egg. They didn't start shooting until after they saw the object in the sky, not before.
Yeah.
Now, there were reports of these lights, people seeing these lights, doing erratic aerial maneuvers and hovering. The only thing there was nothing back then that could hover except helicopters.
Yeah.
And nobody's going to mistake a helicopter
for a UFO.
In fact, it'd probably be hard-pressed to see a helicopter if it's 2 miles in the air.
Yeah.
You're just going to see lights, pretty much. You're not going to see anything. So basically, it was hovering and then doing these erratic movements. Zipping around and going straight up and dropping straight down and just zigzagging and all this kind of stuff, which are similar to what we now know in some UFO reports.
Right.
So I thought that was kind of...
just taunting our military.
Right. Laughing at us. Hey, can't hit me.
Yeah.
But we're done.
But it was just jitters.
Yeah, just jitters. But let's move on to Inarguable Truth number 6. Other theories on what may have occurred do not include war nerves. Dr. Robert Wood, an aerospace engineer who worked for Sikorsky Hughes, McDonnell Douglas, and Lockheed, pretty smart guy, believed there was a cover-up and exposed secret government projects. After retiring, Dr. Wood researched and exposed the Majestic 12 and other secret government projects. He received the 5 leaked documents about the Battle of Los Angeles, at least one that has been authenticated. We talked about these earlier. One of the documents is a memo between Franklin D. Roosevelt, president at the time, and George Marshall, the Army's chief of staff. It is dated 1 week after the incident. It reads, quote, "This headquarters has come to the determination that the mystery planes are not of earthly origin, and according to secret intelligence sources, they are all in probability of interplanetary origin," unquote. However, the government denied that memo, and Dr. Wood only received photocopies, not originals, so there's no way to test the paper to authenticate them as genuine. If there was a flying object in the skies above Los Angeles in 1942, it remains unidentified.
Interesting.
Yes, and here's some of the other theories. Of course, the first one, UFOs. Perhaps the most popular alternative theory, this suggests the hovering, slow-moving object in the searchlights was of alien origin, bolstered by claims of unrecovered, non-conventional craft. And were those other documents that said that they found 2 of them.
Right.
Why that would have been hidden from the public if it was alien aircraft. Of course they would have hid that from the public, just like they did in Roswell. What was Roswell, like 1940 or something?
Yeah, I think so.
Something like that. Was it only a couple of years before this or a couple of years after, I think? I can't remember at the time. But it was right around that time. And they covered that up, remember?
Yeah. Some speculate the incident was caused by aircraft launched from the Japanese submarines, designed to cause panic or an attempt to test U.S. defenses.
Which is a good theory. I mean, nothing wrong with that. But my only problem with that is if it was some kind of aircraft launched from Japanese submarines or some kind of drone or, a glider or whatever they're trying to say it was, why didn't they shoot it down?
Yeah.
If it was slow moving, they would have blasted it right out of the air.
Yeah.
So that's my only problem.
And they would have known that the submarine was there because of radar.
And sonar and stuff,
Yeah, and taking out the submarine.
I mean, we had Navy at the time.
Yeah.
The next one is a staged event or cover-up. Some theories suggest the government staged or exaggerated the event to create panic. justifying increased wartime spending or to test public reaction to an attack on the West Coast. Again, pretty far-fetched, but possible.
Yeah, especially the increased wartime spending.
Mm-hmm.
I could see that.
But I don't know if that was even necessary because the attack on Pearl Harbor did happen. Whether you say that, because there's some people that say, oh, that was stage 2 or whatever, but whether you believe that or not,
it happened.
Yeah, it happened and we were attacked. So I don't think they would have had to justify wartime spending. So
the Secretary of War, Henry Stimson, proposed that the Phantom planes could have been light commercial aircraft operated by enemy agents from hidden airfields in Mexico.
Now, again, if that's the case, why didn't we shoot them down? Commercial aircrafts, we could have easily shot them down.
Yeah.
So let's move on to Inarguable Truth number 7, which is false alarms generally do not count as military collateral damage. This one's going to get a little in-depth because it's the mic drop.
Okay.
There were no formal charges and no direct disciplinary action against any military personnel over the incident, but it caused major embarrassment for both the Army and the Navy. They were 2 separate branches, so there were either 2 separate commanders or 1 direct commander that was in charge of both the Army and Navy personnel. The thing to consider and the thing to keep in mind, someone had to give the order to open fire. That's it.
Yeah.
Jittery nerves, war nerves, that's all garbage. They're not going to fire unless they're given the order to.
Right. What does Jack Nicholson say in that movie? If you don't obey a direct order, people get killed, or something like that.
Something like that, yeah. I don't know why you thought of that, because that's something totally different.
No, but it's an order. If the person in charge gives an order, boom.
Yeah. The point is they would have had to have been given the order to fire. They're not just going to get trigger happy and start shooting in the sky for no reason. Period.
Yeah.
That argument is asinine.
Yeah, because you're not talking about farmers and bakers. You're not talking about the old days like in the 1800s or 1700s or 1600s where they had to get every man, every boy. We're talking about trained men and women in the military.
These were military personnel, yes. In strict military terminology, false alarms are considered significant incidents or failures that can have severe unintended consequences. This usually results in military discipline. Now, collateral damage specifically refers to unintentional or incidental harm to civilians, domestic or undomestic, or civilian property resulting from an attack on a legitimate military target. Here's the million-dollar question. Since no formal charges were brought against any military personnel during this engagement, there was actually a legitimate target that the military was firing at, which qualified it as a case of collateral damage. That's it. Mic drop.
Yeah, that is a mic drop.
Because there's only 2 explanations that no one was brought up on charges. Number 1, it was collateral damage and there was a legitimate target. Or, number 2, it was a false alarm. Someone would have hanged.
Yeah.
Someone would have paid for that mistake. Especially if you're talking about 5 civilians dying.
Yeah.
Just imagine today.
Yeah, I know.
Even during wartime, baby.
Right.
If they were firing shells up in the sky and caused 5 people to die, and it's later reported that there was nothing there,
Yeah.
somebody would hang. And that's why I did that in the red flag /findings/sightings section, talking about 19,000 court-martials were issued during World War II. The idea that, oh, no, they're not going to punish them because it's wartime. No. They punish troops all the time for murder, for rape, for theft, all kinds of stuff.
Business is still business.
Exactly. You still have to conduct yourself with professionalism. Right. Now, of course, there's, accusations, the military overlooks stuff. Not in this case. Not in this case. There's no way. If 5 Americans died due to the mistakes of the Army and the Navy, somebody would have paid the price because they would have had to have been an order to open fire.
Right.
So my argument is there had to be a legitimate target. That's why the military wasn't held responsible.
Right.
Because it qualified as collateral damage.
Yeah.
So, in conclusion, baby, what do you think about the Battle of Los Angeles?
I think it was what were you calling it? I think it was a collateral damage. I think something happened. You can't tell me that the military got jittery. And if there was one commander that ordered it, I'm thinking that somebody would have stopped it within like minutes. You know what I mean?
Right.
So something happened. Something happened that night.
That's why that hour pause between sounding the air sirens and then a whole nother hour of them firing heavily.
Heavily, yeah.
That's 2 hours.
Yeah.
Radios are instant.
Yeah.
Phone calls are instant.
Yep.
So they would have gotten the orders.
Yep.
Yay or nay, they open fire.
Yeah.
Period.
And this is in the 1940s, so it's not like people couldn't be contacted in like Seattle, Washington.
Right.
There were phone calls going out that night. There were definitely phone calls going out that night.
Right.
So, yeah, an incident happened.
And remember, it's not like there wasn't a Navy base right there in San Diego. That could have been contacted.
Yes,
or a military army base right there in Fort Irwin.
Right.
Just north of L.A.
Right.
That could have easily been called on the radio.
Right.
To get orders. That's the point.
Definitely something happened. Something happened that night, and...
But what do you think it was?
I think it was enemies.
You think it was enemy aircraft?
Yeah. And here's the thing. What happened to the 2 planes that happened in San Bernardino and out by Catalina? Where are those?
They're unauthenticated. There was no evidence that they were actually recovered. That's the problem.
But they do know that they're somewhere out there, if they are.
If they are, that's the thing.
But they don't know what they are.
No. The only thing that they were able to authenticate was the one that said they might be interplanetary or whatever.
That's crazy.
That's the only one. But the report about them recovering 2 non-American or unknown aircraft in San Bernardino Mountains and in the ocean between Catalina and LA, those are unauthenticated. So we don't know if those actually...
So there might be aliens in Catalina and San Bernardino. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Okay, that's what I think. I haven't been convinced that there's aliens yet.
My conclusion is I don't know if it... I'm with you. I don't know if it was alien aircraft. But I do think that when you're talking about the Foo Fighters and pilots seeing lights in the sky that they couldn't explain, possibly some kind of unknown technology by one of our enemies or maybe even one of our allies that they were testing. Maybe it was early drone technology. I don't know. So it might not have been alien, but what I am pretty sure of, what I can honestly say I believe happened, there was a legitimate target in the sky. There was something up there that they couldn't identify and they were shooting at it. I just don't know how they could fire at nothing and nobody be brought up on charges. That's the main problem I have. Or that it was a weather balloon is even worse.
Yeah.
The almighty weather balloon.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I disagree with both those, yeah.
Right.
There's no way it was either one of those. That they're jittery for an hour.
That they're shooting at searchlights because, they just saw targets all over the place and they just lost and panicked. That is so demeaning to our troops. And I think it's, that's the design of it. They'd rather make the troops look bad than admit that something happened.
Of course they would.
So that about does it, baby.
Yeah, that does it. I would like to thank Michael for this idea for the show. Thank you for sending that idea in to us. We appreciate it. Everybody, thank you for listening. Thank you for the 80,000 views. We appreciate that. Go subscribe, check us out, and that's it. Have a good night, everybody. Good night.
Yeah, don't forget to subscribe. It's really the easiest way you can support us if you like the show. Good night, everybody.